Welcome to another episode of AI in Real Estate. Here is where we share practical examples on how AI can help you become more productive in your day-to-day work. And so far, we've covered many real-world use case and practical applications, but I don't think that's enough anymore. One of the most common questions I get from our clients is not how to use AI, but how to deploy AI across an organization and drive meaningful adoption. So today we're taking a slightly different direction. I'm joined by special guests who really understand firsthand what it takes to introduce new technologies, manage change, and drive results inside real estate organizations. And she sits at the intersection of several areas of real estate and has a role that requires a huge amount of creativity, analytics, strategy, and execution to create value. So I'll let her introduce herself. So welcome, America. Tell us a little bit about background, your career journey, and what are you focused on today?
Thank you, Marcio. Thank you for having me today. My name is America Milregan. I currently work for Morgan Properties. We are headquartered in Pennsylvania, and I assist with overseeing ancillary services or ancillary revenue, as some companies might call it. My background up until before joining Morgan was in the revenue management space. And I've been in multi-housing altogether for about 20 years. So have had the luxury of being able to deploy some of our fun and known revenue management software, various ones throughout my career in different places, both owner operators, REITs, and third party management.
Great, great. So I think you're the perfect guest to talk about this subject today. So I think my first question is, where is multifamily actually at with AI right now?
Great question. There, we are in many different places. I see other companies and I hear other companies when I speak with them speak of how it's being leveraged. It's being leveraged both within the software that we use, that we interact with. A lot of our vendor partners are realizing that it is important to automate a lot of the mundane tasks that they have to do, follow ups, renewals, etc. And then organizationally, a lot of the large companies, like Morgan, are starting to leverage it both to aid in daily activities as well as to aid in a more robust reporting capability as well.
No, that's good. That's good. And again, like this is a topic that I've been discussing a lot, and there's some fear behind adoption today. How do you see that playing out?
Yes, there's a lot of fear behind adoption. I believe the fear behind adoption has to do directly with a little bit of loss of control, right? Automation brings some loss of control, and some of us, specifically in revenue management, we like to
Mhm.
be in control. So that is one fear. The other fear is understanding how do you validate that whatever AI tool you've implemented, and I'll use reporting as an example, how do you validate that the input is accurate and that the output is accurate as well?
Mhm.
I hear that is where the majority of the fear lies right now. Security around it, change management around it, job impact. If what a lot of people that I've spoken to recently fail to understand is that deploying AI internally actually helps time management, and it helps identify where your employees should be spending more of their time. If you think of ancillary revenue, it allows me and my team to focus our initiatives where, or focus the time into initiatives that will either bring in higher revenue, or give us more time back to launch more initiatives as well.
No, that's really a really good point because that's exactly how I see it. I don't know in the long term how things are going to play out. If I knew, if I had a crystal ball, I'll be trading options and becoming like a trillionaire, maybe, you know.
Yes.
But the way I see this first wave is more about like having people to save time and being able to do what they couldn't do before, because like
Yes.
they were jammed and work, all of that, and giving them ideas of what else they can do with AI. And you also, touching another point that relates to trust. So my next question is, what is needed to trust AI?
That is a very loaded question because it will look different for every person who interacts with it, of course, and it will look different based on what you're leveraging AI for. Um, Again, as I'm having conversations with other companies and other folks, both in revenue and ancillary, what I hear is wanting to see the breakdown of the data first to ensure, wanting to, for a lack of a better way of explaining it, wanting to validate that data first.
Mm.
Once you are able to manually, let's use Excel, validate that the data is accurate, that in turn allows users to start having more buy-in to
Mhm.
how leveraging that data.
No, that's good. And like giving a little bit of how Lenny works, the way we built Lenny, it provides always the logic
Mhm.
behind the answer, plus all the sources and numbers on it as well. So you know how, if there's a math there or anything on the output, you know how it got there. So that's a really good point there. Uh,
Yeah, and
um,
and
you,
sorry if I may add,
yeah,
I think for us revenue managers specifically, we have the concept of black box, right? So what happens on the back end with
we hear that a
calculation?
lot. Yeah.
Yes, and we've lived with that for quite some time. So, uh, having access to that black box data, I think is very important to us as well.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
being able to make adjustments as needed and see the result of that adjustment ahead of, publishing or having AI automate any processes.
I think like over the last, I would say 20, 30 years, everybody talked about dashboards, where you could see data, understand the data. But I think we are in a different world today. So where do you see dashboards falling short, and what is something that what is could help you decide and make decisions moving forward?
That's a great question. So dashboards today, yes, everybody wants a dashboard. Everyone uses a dashboard. We use it holistically as an organization. We use it, departmentally to give us a pulse on where we are. Where these dashboards have continuously fallen short is in ensuring that they are dynamic enough to show you where your risk lies, where you take action for the next step, as well as they fall short with forecasting, right? So if you are to do nothing, this is where you are heading. If you are to improve one or two areas, this is where you will end up. If you improve every area, this will be your output or end result. Um, the other challenge that we have with dashboards is the fact that they're static. It's
Hmm.
today. What data do I have today? And we do not have the ability to, I won't say manipulate, but the ability to forecast that data in a different way. That is where I see dashboards being now becoming a little bit obsolete.
No, you're totally right. The way I usually see this and going along with what you said, like dashboards are static data. You have a
Mm.
picture of your, asset as of today, but it doesn't tell you much about trends and intelligence moving forward. So that's the difference between dashboard, where I think it's a static intelligence, versus AI actually analyzing your data, which I think I would say it's live intelligence. So I
Mm.
do see that those like in different ways. And for me, dashboards are becoming more and more, commoditized. I would say like everybody already had some kind of dashboards that they used to, but actually understanding what is the next step, build an action plan, etc. That's where AI is coming to the dashboards and doing a lot more today. Uh, and in terms of deploying AI and results, where does AI make the most financial sense first?
I think that incorrectly, sometimes when employees hear AI, they assume their job is going to be cut, right? So, where I see the most financial sense is actually in the ability that AI gives us to save on hours and make our employees be more intentional about where they are spending their time. They're spending their time ancillary specific in areas that will allow us to recognize revenue faster, bring in revenue faster. It will find areas of opportunities that historically, given some of our stagnant dashboards, would have taken us longer to identify.
Mm-hmm.
So in turn, it's really guiding the areas in which our workforce should be spending their time on. It helps us capture that revenue faster. And will it lead to headcount eventually? Absolutely, I'm sure it will. But the headcount that you do retain will be a lot more in line with your desired end results.
We see a lot of organizations just distributing, like model license, like whether Claude or GPT, Gemini, whatever it is, they distribute to their employees and they expect things to come back, productivity to increase, and all of that. And I don't think that works like that. So, based on that, who do you think should own the AI inside a multifamily organization? Who should own the outcomes? How should that be worked within the organization?
Personally, I believe there should be a a lot of work done to set the foundation and the expectation of why are we even introducing AI, right? Are we trying to find, we're a business. The goal here is NOI. How do we increase
Mhm.
NOI, right? How do we increase NOI? How do we leverage AI within the various departments to help us, with maintenance, with residents, etc. So I don't know that there is one department or organization that should own it. I believe that as an organization, you should speak to the adoption of AI every day and or everyday use of AI, and then allow each department to determine what's the best use of AI within their department.
Mhm.
How are they going to leverage, if AI at all, if any, if they find it
Mhm.
helpful for them or not. So it is a loaded question. I don't know. I
Mhm.
think the immediate response anyone has when you ask it is they might say IT, right?
Mhm.
IT owns some of the functionality, not the strategy
The
behind it.
outcomes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, executive leadership, I should say, owns the
Yeah.
strategy of
Uh,
introducing AI to the organization.
yeah. No, that's interesting because there are a couple of things that I've seen across the board, and like, and that helps or disturb the adoption at the end. So we've seen companies that because of FOMO, they say we need to deploy AI,
Right.
and they don't know where to start from. And then to your point, what we also see other companies that they know the areas know, okay, we need to deploy AI, but we know the processes that needs to be automated or needs to be improved through
Yes.
AI. And I usually see that those companies where the departments themselves, they understand how they want to improve their processes are more successful than just a top-down approach. You need to deploy AI, and that's it. Because it's different than when you know how the real use case, how to deploy it, and then you work with that. And when you try to find use case because your mandate is just deploying AI. So it's
Right.
completely different, and that usually this is not as successful as when the areas, as you just mentioned, know and they own some of the outputs and they understand. Okay, if we do here, there, and there on finance, asset management, operation, whatever it is, revenue management, they understand how it works internally. Then they apply the AI own processes, not vice versa. So that's really, really interesting.
And I'll elaborate on the FOMO part because I like that you use that. Um, so I was an early adopter of revenue management years ago, and revenue management as a concept was difficult for a lot of folks to understand. So where revenue management was, 15 years ago, I believe is where AI adoption is today, right? Which is,
Mm-hmm.
what is this? Is it really going to make a difference? And what resulted from that? What resulted from that was companies started seeing success in other companies, and then the FOMO kicked in. And they
Mm-hmm.
said, well, if this company is using revenue management and they're successful, we should as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
start hearing the AI conversation around that, right? So the FOMO needs to
Mm-hmm.
start. Okay, here's my FOMO. They're starting to use it. So maybe it results in the same thing that happened with revenue management, which was we want to use it, we want to adopt it, and then you create a role that actually leads that initiative,
Mm-hmm.
leads the AI. And revenue management is very intricate in everything that we do. So we touch on and collaborate with all the other departments. And that's how I foresee AI working as well, is potentially one central person or a role created for it that brings in all of the departments, and then the departments lead in the
Mm-hmm.
manner in which they need to lead, much like we did with revenue management. Here's a tool. How does it affect all of us, and how do we work towards, that same NOI goal?
What should an operator or an asset manager ask vendors before trusting or adopting or buying an AI platform, an AI product?
Another really good question. I think that if we employ tried and true and trusted playbooks that we have within multifamily that we've used when we vet any other tool, which is what are we trying to solve for?
Mm-hmm.
How do we operate today? What are those non-negotiables if we have non-negotiable contractual language, non-negotiable securities around it? We need to create a playbook that's specific for AI, just like we have a playbook that's specific for our selection of any other vendor. Is
Mm-hmm.
what is the solve? What are we trying to solve for here?
I see a lot of difference between mid, small, and large companies. How do you see that? How does a company size change the adoption?
Well, it depends on the company. I can foresee, I think the obvious answer is the smaller you are, the easier it is for everybody to come together and have enough time to use it together, quote unquote, break it together, ask questions together. However, once you scale an organization and you have set that foundation and it's a strong foundation, you can still create that feedback loop of what works and what doesn't, and even go to your vendor and ask, do you guys have any type of use case already? Where should we be with adoption? What are the results that we should expect by 60 days, 90 days? If it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if it's a vendor AI driven tool that you're using, if it's an internal AI driven tool that you're creating or leveraging, set milestones and expectations. Where should we be? What has been difficult? What has not been difficult? What has been easy? What has not been easy?
Mm-hmm.
And then ask yourself where there is room for improvement to ensure that you're meeting everybody's needs. Like anything we do within multi-housing, there's different levels of understanding of technology and use of technology. So
Mm-hmm.
why not leverage tools that meet everybody where they are in their
Mm-hmm.
understanding and their need, and that will also push for.
You're right. Like it feels like smaller companies is a little bit easier to to deploy. And actually, from my experience, when you have a large company, like there are so many stakeholders
Mhm.
that you need to talk to and convince. It's a lot lengthier to even buy, and
Mhm.
then adoption is also the same. And the way I see it, it feels like the mid and small companies are actually getting scales of efficiency Like on average, of course, there are exceptions, etc. But on average, scales of efficiency, efficiency of scales that the large companies are not like used to have because they're large, but they're not adopting AI that fast. So the smaller companies are getting there a little bit faster today.
Yeah.
So that's a quite an interesting point.
See, and then that FOMO will kick in again because they will see
You'll see
other
the other, yeah,
companies
yeah,
realizing efficiencies, and they will want to
exactly.
fast track theirs as well.
Exactly. No, and then when you go to a sales call, like if you're a smaller company, first one if he likes, he brings the other like main, decision makers, and
Yes.
after two calls, three calls, you have a decision there. When you go
Yeah.
to a large company, sometimes it takes five, six, seven calls.
Yes.
Everybody needs to be involved, and I understand the process, but it's a lot lengthier
Yes.
than the average.
And the
Uh,
good thing about small versus large company is you start working with a large company and they have been through a vetting process before,
yeah,
right? So ideally,
good point.
they have an expectation of this is how long it's going to take us because we have a lot more roles. And what I have experienced is there's a lot more intentionality behind why they're having those additional meetings, um, or vendor discussions, because they want to ensure that we are not leaving a single stone unturned. Everything that could potentially pose a risk to their
Yeah,
department and that makeup of the organization is being discussed and talked about. There's a lot more break points when you have a larger organization than there are when the organization
absolutely.
is smaller.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree with that. And one last question, and why do you think like good ideas get rejected inside like organizations?
I'm going to say what people don't want to hear. I believe that you almost have to ensure that with everything else that you're launching organizationally, that the decision makers and the stakeholders are ready to hear that there's something new that we want
Hmm.
to deploy. I believe that they might get rejected when you don't do a good job at showcasing the value proposition, right?
Hmm.
If you know how to approach a stakeholder and your stakeholder is motivated by visibility, then you approach that stakeholder with visibility. If you have a decision maker that is motivated by how many dollars and cents are you adding to my bottom line, and you approach it that way, then you know that it will be successful, and further questions on it will be. So, bring it all back to what you said. Hey, decision maker, we have these dashboards that you were once, opposed to using that we now leverage every day. Let's add a layer to that. Let's
Hmm.
have a use case. Let's, do a pilot just to showcase the value behind a new initiative.
Well, this has been really, really great, America. Any final thoughts on this?
Well, the more the conversation arises, the more our vendor partners bring up, how they are leveraging AI internally for themselves to be better partners to us. As operators, I strongly believe that that continues to make a case for us as operators as to why we should adopt some of those efficiencies ourselves as well. So the more
Hmm.
buzz there is around it, the more it encourages people to ask questions. How are you leveraging it? Why are you leveraging it? What are
Hmm.
the results that you want to see? And the more our vendors give us those insights, I think
Hmm.
just like dashboard, just like revenue management, the easier it will make it for a client or an operator to say, I want to test it. How do I test it? When do I start testing it?
But I really appreciate this because like you are on the ground, you've like adopted and implemented several different tools. So this has been super helpful, and
Yes.
I think our audience will really appreciate this, this conversation. So thank you very much. And for everyone, I hope you see in the next episode of AI in Real Estate.